So thank you all for joining us today to discuss the topic of AI for decarbonisation. So AI is very much a topic we can't seem to escape from at the moment, right? Especially in popular media, with sort of vast advancements taking place in generative AI and tools like ChatGPT being pretty much at the forefront of, I don't know about you, but every conversation on LinkedIn that I seem to see at the moment. And on the one hand, there's lots of fear around the harmful potential of AI and, pleas from technology leaders that we need to halt any further advancement. But on the other hand, there is huge potential for AI to play a crucial role in helping us to tackle the climate crisis. I mean, undeniably, AI helps us move faster, helps us identify risk better, to develop novel solutions and to automate processes that make us less energy intensive and save vast amounts of carbon emissions. So as a break from the fear, perhaps an oasis in the fear, we're here today to share an optimistic view of how we believe AI can contribute to a greener future, and a couple of fantastic examples of people who are working in that space and how they're using AI technology to sort of further develop their businesses. So we are joined today by Laura James from Overstory and Vanessa Moffat from QIO Technologies, who are both going to share with you their career journeys into the space, what their respective organisations are doing, and the skills and technologies that they require in their businesses. So, with no further ado, Laura, would you like to take the floor?
Sure, thank you so much. Hopefully you can all see my slide. Cool. Yeah. I'm Laura. I'm the engineering director at Overstory, where I've been since July last year. And my journey here has been very unusual, I suspect. I'm an engineer, an electronics engineer by training, and I've spent my career coordinating teams to ship products using deep technologies across a bunch of different technologies and a bunch of different sectors and industries. And in the last 10 years or so, I've been much more focused on renewable energy and social justice type causes. There hasn't been like a particular climate transition career moment for me. It's just been a gradual journey of seeing how we could be using tech more for good than we have in the past. So Overstory was an exciting next step for me, having had a few years more in the nonprofit space, coming back to a much more classic business with an actual business focus. And Overstory is very unusual. We're a startup with a huge global mission for long-term impact and a short-term super niche impact. Our founders started out with a vision to do with trees. I'm going to talk more about that. And after experimenting with a bunch of different use cases, found this particular niche sector where there's an offer we can offer real value to our customers today while still developing our technologies towards our big long-term impact vision. So a really unusual climate tech startup. And I want to start off by telling you about the niche that we work in today and which is powering our growth at the moment. So if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? Or if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, can it start a fire? You might have heard about some of the really big wildfires that have been in North America and other places in recent years. And this one the Dixie Fire was the second largest in California's history. It burnt almost 1 million acres with a huge number of lives lost and buildings lost, but also trees lost. This is a huge impact on the climate crisis today. And this fire started when a power line owned by Pacific Gas and Electric was hit by a tree falling over and ignited. So a total tragedy, but also very preventable. And electricity utilities know this is a problem. They spend $30 billion a year on managing vegetation and making sure that trees don't hit power lines. But it still happens. It happens a lot. And those fires are more significant with climate change, meaning that we have much more flammable forests as well. I don't think I need to read this out for this audience, but it is really significant. Fires and things are just happening more and more, and electricity is a key cause. Fires caused by electricity will become catastrophic. And we're getting more electricity. This is a second piece of decarbonisation. Moving to electricity off gas means moving towards more grid infrastructure, just more electricity cables. So we need to stop those trees from falling on power lines. And that is what Overstory does. Today, the work of inspecting trees near power lines is very manual. And Overstory is helping companies move from a classic model of vegetation management where somebody goes and inspects the trees, makes a plan for which ones need to be trimmed, and then they come back and trim them, to something much more intelligence-driven. And one of the things that makes us unusual is we're very cross-functional as a team. We have a whole bunch of arborists on the team alongside our data scientists and engineers. And we also have former vegetation management folks working with us in customer success roles. So we all get to learn quite a lot about trees and about utility companies, as well as the core Overstory technologies. And so staff at Overstory need to be adaptable and ready to learn and to be curious. Curiosity is a really key value for us. So the thing with power lines is you start with a few, but it very rapidly scales up, and customers have huge numbers of miles and miles and miles of power line around America. It is a large scale problem, and satellites give us a large scale solution. So we are able to see what's going on across miles, square kilometers, loads and loads of area. And we have more satellites than ever before, which is very exciting. It's every year there are more satellites, and the things like the resolution and the kind of data that we can get back from those satellites is also getting better every year. Really exciting, equivalent to Moore's law curves in satellites. So the Overstory team has a lot of specialists who help us work with that data, specialists in GIS, geographic information systems, in remote sensing, and also more conventional skill sets, data engineering, data science, and machine learning. And we use our lots of different technologies to figure out where the trees are, and then to figure out more about those trees. You can see here a straightforward visual image of the trees from space. And then we also use hyperspectral imagery to spot different characteristics. You can see some of the red highlighting here that shows us the level of health of the trees, the chlorophyll content of the leaves, and that kind of thing. So that helps us understand much more about what's going on. And Overstory has machine learning models that let us detect not just where is a tree and where isn't a tree, but for instance, the different species of trees, the health of the trees, are they thriving, declining, or dead? And of course, the height and position of the trees, which is critical for us to help our customers manage them well. So we get tree information from satellites, we bring in customer information about the electricity network, and then we do a lot of different analysis. And a lot of different things matter to our customers. They have all kinds of different landscapes and different needs, from regulation to preventing wildfire, to preventing outages, to reducing cost on how much it costs just to keep on top of this growing electrical network. And so everything is a little bit different. Each customer is special. And we have a specific role at Overstory called the technical delivery lead, and they look after the technical side of each of our customer projects. They work with a customer success manager who looks after the business relationship. The technical delivery lead combines two key skill sets. They're Python data wranglers who clean up customer data, run data pipelines, analyze the results, and they're delivery managers. They look after customer projects, make sure that we manage the risks, that we get stuff done on time, and that kind of thing. And so it's a really nice mixture between customer facing, helping our customers understand the kinds of things that we can detect from satellites, also doing some technical work as well, and getting involved with helping build our machine learning models. And we do all of these different kinds of analysis and then put it all together into the Overstory web product. And we have a software team who are devoted to this as well, with designers, which helps our customers to see exactly what is going on, both at the big picture level and down to the individual pylons and cables that you can see here. And they can get a really detailed map of the different kinds of risk they face, from trees growing near the lines, falling into the lines, sickening and then falling into the lines. And also we bring in other data like the wildfire risk rating, how flammable the forest is in that particular area. So it's very exciting because we're having an impact for our customers right now today, and there's a lot more to do. Every single customer we get means that we get new satellite imagery and new data about trees. And that means that our machine learning models get better every single month. And that means that we can look at the number of trees worldwide and think, maybe not today, but we are building up our models that mean that we will be able to, sooner or later, have satellite imagery for the whole planet that helps us understand each and every tree. And that will be useful for a lot of different things to do with decarbonisation and the climate change mission, not just helping utility companies. So this is where we want to get to, really understanding all the trees, all the vegetation worldwide, so that we can look after it better as a planet. We have a lot of different technologies under the hood, which make it scalable and mean that I can talk about lots of trees quite calmly. I won't go through all of these, but we use a lot of Python notebooks, and Jupyter Hub and Dagster really make those scale for us and run really nicely. And Dask helps us manage really large amounts of data in a concurrent way as well. We are a fully remote team, and this is all of us at our recent team get-together in the forest near Amsterdam. Our engineers are all based around Europe, so very different countries, but all roughly in a European time zone. And our business team is slightly more biased to the States. So we have a lot of business team and arborists, for instance, over in America. This photo feels really out of date because actually I'm trying to count how many people we had there and how many people we have now. We are hiring a lot at the moment. We are overwhelmed with new customer growth, which is very exciting. So there's a lot of different roles that we're hiring for at the moment at Overstory, and we're going to be scaling up even more in the coming months than we have done so recently. We have a lot of really diverse professional backgrounds, folks who've come from different tech startups like Spotify, the New York Times. We have arborists and wildland firefighters and folks who, yeah, it's just really varied, which is always a pleasure. Everyone comes from a very different place, and we're really proud of our diversity in leadership too, with both gender and majority people of color in our leadership team. So it's really a lovely place to be. Yeah, you don't have to be an expert to make a difference in climate. You just have to find the right application for your skills. And Overstory is a really interesting place where a lot of different skills can come into play. So yeah, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, it may not make a sound, but with a little bit of help from satellites and machine learning, it won't start a fire or cause a power outage. So thank you, and do check us out. It's a really lovely place to be. I'm enjoying working on both a really big, significant long-term mission and our little niche mission short-term.
That's fab, Laura. Thank you so much. And so fascinating that Overstory are occupying that kind of space between climate, AI, and also that biodiversity angle as well of, the trees that we plant, ensuring that they stay where they are and they thrive, right? And yeah, a problem that's only getting exponentially, well, I say worse, but a problem that's only increasing, like you said, as we kind of electrify more and as we plant more trees. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Laura. And now Vanessa Moffat from QIO Technologies, are you happy to share your story with us?
Apologies, just needed to unmute. Can you all see my screen? Okay, so first of all, thank you, Laura. That was a very interesting presentation, and Cherry and Julia, thank you for inviting me as well. Very happy to be speaking to everybody a little bit about my journey into AI, which sounds unusual for me because when I first went to university, AI wasn't really around. The job that I'm doing right now just didn't exist. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the data center sector, which for a lot of people, they don't really know very much about, because we're kind of like a little bit of the secret sauce in the sector. And then I'd like to move on to talk about how AI is helping how QIO, our company, is using AI to help this data center sector, which you'll see actually has a big impact on our planet. So first of all, like Laura, I have a little bit of an unusual path into IT and into the role that I'm doing as well. So I fell into IT. I didn't ever intend to do IT at all. I went to university doing maths and psychology, and then ended up with a degree in computer science. So Not quite sure how that happened, but there we go. So that started my journey on IT, and I went into IT management. And at that point, I was looking at the consultants, and they were all earning money for the company, and we were seen as a cost center. And I could never understand why IT was seen as a cost center, because, you know, like AI, we should be helping the businesses, we should be helping the planet, for example. So my true north is growth. It's sustainable growth, and by sustainable growth, I mean sustainable for the planet, but also sustainable businesses. If you've got one-hit wonder businesses, then that is for sure not going to be good for the economy. It's not going to be good for the planet. It's not going to be good for people. So sustainability on two fronts, one for the planet, one for the business and the economy. So I moved into project management and practice leading and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to read all of this stuff out, but as you can see, I didn't start off in IT management and then do that for the rest of my life. In fact, when I was there, I was thinking, if I'm going to do this for the next 40 years, I'm going to have serious head trouble because that's just not me. I like a lot of variety. And I remember meeting some software developers, and they're still doing software development today. So anyway, that was never going to be my path, and I'm glad it hasn't been. And I've moved on to be a general manager in QIO technologies, and I'll come on to that in a bit. So the variety is still there, the sustainability angle is still there from both points. And it's been an interesting journey, and I love it still today. So let me move on to the next slide. So the data center sector, if possible, could I have a show of hands of people who have heard of the data center sector and know a bit about? Okay, lovely. Thank you. Has anyone seen this slide before, or anything like it, where the subsea cables are in the world? This is a little bit out of date. I didn't want to kind of plagiarize anything, but this one I know I can use. There are thousands of cables under the sea around the world. And I don't know if you know how the infrastructure works. It doesn't matter whether you make a phone call from your landline or from your mobile phone, or if you send a text message or a WhatsApp message or a Facebook Messenger. It doesn't really matter how that message is transferred by whichever app. If you're sending it from the UK to the United States, you'll be going across one of these cables. There's a physical part to that piece of transport, whichever route you take. I mean, there's a slight exception if there's a satellite link in there somewhere, but most communications happens via these subsea cables. So every time you send a text message or do anything on your phone, it's probably between these two countries or whichever countries, it will go through one of these cables. At the end of every single one of these cables is a data center. And there are approximately 8,000 data centers in the world. And the data centers consume up to around 3% of the world's energy. And we emit up to about the same amount in greenhouse gases. And so, as you can imagine, you know, that is quite a big chunk of our problem, basically. And under the Paris Climate Agreement, we've agreed to reduce our net greenhouse gases by 55% by the year 2030, which is 6.5 years away. And at the moment, I don't think we're on the right path. I think, you know, there's a lot of work to do. And what you'll see is that there's a lot of legislation coming out for various different industries. And we are definitely one of those sectors, you know, because we consume quite a lot of energy and we big greenhouse gas culprits. So a lot of regulation is hitting us right now, as you can imagine. Now, the reason I'm trying to give you this background is because it is a big chunk of infrastructure for the world. It's a big chunk of the problem for the world. But AI has a big opportunity to help here, and I'll come on to that in a bit. So a lot of the problems that we're facing in the sector are things like rising energy pricing. It's not everywhere in the world, but it's quite a lot of places in the world. We've got the increased regulation that I've been talking about. Then you've got just general growth. You know, we are adding data to the system at some crazy rate. I haven't got a graph for it, I'm sorry. But if you can imagine, when we went offline for COVID, everybody started watching Netflix, and everything on Netflix goes through data centers. It goes through all of these cables. So this is where the internet lives. And we are increasing what we're doing on a daily basis. So every time you use your phone, every time you use an app on your phone, you're using at least one data center. And I guess the message I'm trying to get out is that everybody needs to be part of this to solve this particular problem. But so we're trying to solve it from our point of view, and but everybody else needs to be aware that we're all part of the same infrastructure, the same ecosystem. So the progress that we've been making on the data center side is that we've been really, really good on making the buildings efficient. We have been looking at the network. That's quite easy to do because it's been around quite a long time. The buildings we've been working on for the last 15 years, and this is globally, by the way, not just in any one country. The designs have been evolving. They'll change now due to more regulation coming in. But we have been pretty good, I think, at making the buildings very efficient from an energy point of view. We're trying to reuse waste heat because data centers create a lot of heat, which is obviously not good for the environment. And the regulation that's coming in as well is going to be making sure that everybody is reusing their waste heat and not just kicking it out into the atmosphere. So that's the progress we've been making. But the progress is just on the building side. It's not on the servers. And if you can imagine 8,000 servers in the world, and on average, and this is somebody somewhere in the data center industry will pull me up on this, but roughly 5,000 servers on average per data center. There's about 50 million servers in the world. Roughly, maybe a little bit more. And so QIO has a solution to actually help these servers from consuming too much energy or as much energy, and to help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions that we all emit across the world. It's big, bold kind of claim and, you know, ambition, but we'll try. So let's just get on to the next slide. So as I mentioned, the pressures that we're facing are energy pricing, regulation, and there's a couple of others as well. So some countries, I don't know if you've heard, but they've got a moratorium on building new buildings or building houses or building data centers or whatever it is, because their grid is overloaded. We've been plowing in electric cars into the grid, and the grid is really, especially in the UK, is really starting to struggle. There are other markets where it's struggling as well. There's Ireland, Paris, particularly the Paris area. Germany is struggling a little bit, Netherlands a little bit, Singapore. There are a few places around the world where they just don't have enough availability on the grid to allow new infrastructure. And so that's one of the pressures we're facing. Another one is that you've heard of cloud infrastructure, Google Cloud, Azure. So they sound like they're great places to go, but they have to allow for elastic capacity, which means they have to over provision every single time they put something out there, which in turn means that we have underutilized assets. And by assets, I mean servers. And so we need to look at the servers and make sure that we can actually reduce the energy consumption from those things. Now, when IT people and when developers, they develop and they set something up for an enterprise application, they set it up for performance. They don't set it up for low energy consumption. Like on our mobile phones, for example, oh, you can't see, there we go. We have a low power mode on our phones, but we don't have low power mode for our infrastructure. So what we're trying to say is, right, first of all, design them for low power mode. And then secondly, when you're running your servers, optimize them so they don't take up energy, but also don't influence the quality of service. So what QIO are doing is we have an AI offering which takes telemetry data from the chipsets, and telemetry data is data like temperature, utilization, power utilization, and a few other bits and pieces. And we take that data, we aggregate it, we analyze the workloads, we analyze the patterns, and we then send signals back to the chipsets to set themselves into various sleep states. Those sleep states are called P and C states. Apologies, this is a bit technical, but essentially what it means is that we will give those chipsets millions of commands over a period of days to set themselves into different states so that they can reduce the amount of energy that they're consuming from the grid, and therefore reduce the amount of energy, greenhouse gas we're kicking out into the atmosphere. So that is what we're trying to do. I mean, there are a few problems around that, and that is because certain organizations are not geared up to do that properly. And I think this forum is quite interesting for that, because IT and facilities rarely talk to each other, but it's facilities who pay the energy bills and IT who design for performance. And so we have a clash of angles there, and we need to figure out how to work on that. I think we need a head of infrastructure which actually looks after both, but you know, that's hopefully happening very soon in the future. We have lots of data, it's not organized, there's not enough people to analyze it, and in order to meet the regulations that are coming in, we need tools like QIO to actually gather all of that data and then report back in the way that is useful and make the changes and improvements that I've been talking about. So from our point of view, sustainability is absolutely paramount to our business. We realize that we're using AI to manage IT, and the irony is not lost on us there, but we think overall our impact on the planet could be, from a server utilization point of view, between 20 and 50% energy reduction from that estate. And so that's not insignificant, and we definitely know that our footprint is way less than that. So overall we should have a good effect on the planet. So I think from an advice point of view, if I was going to say anything, my true north, as I said, was sustainability and growth. So true growth from a sustainability point of view, and that's for the planet and for businesses and ecosystems and economy. But I've always just been doing what I love doing, and I think if I tell my children anything else, you know, then I don't know, I'm not in my right mind. But you know, just do what you love, do what you're good at, and carry on doing that. I think it's interesting because our kids today, you know, the jobs that they will be doing in 10 years time or whatever, seriously just don't exist yet, and I can't wait to see what comes next. So thank you very much. I've got some more information here if anybody is interested, and looking forward to the breakouts. Thank you.
That's brilliant, Vanessa. Thank you so much for sharing. And that map of all the data centers and all the pipes was fascinating. It's sort of, I think it's, if you don't work in technology and in a kind of data center or internet related role day to day, it's very easy to think of the internet as this kind of ethereal, invisible thing that doesn't exist, right? But it's very physical, it's very there, isn't it? And yeah, I think what QIO are doing is very important and very fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.